I'm on a country road, writing up an invoice on an older couple's kitchen counter, and a pickup pulls into the driveway. Neighbor. He doesn't knock, doesn't really say much, just walks in with a casserole dish in both hands and sets it down. Says, figured you two'd be without heat a day or so, made extra. Then he's gone. Didn't want to thank you, didn't make a thing of it. I drove home that afternoon a nicer man than I left the shop, and I couldn't have told you why. This has figured something out. I'm Dave. I fix air conditioners over in Kingfisher, and today I'm working through a feeling I never had a word for until recently. That thing that happens when you watch somebody do something plain decent and it lights something up in you. You feel warm, a little moved, and for a few hours after, you treat people better than you would have. You hold the door, you let a guy merge, you're just easier to be around. Turns out that feeling has a name, and there's real science under it. Back to that call. Older couple out on a country road, heat had quit on them. Nothing fancy, inducer motor on its last legs. I was wrapping up, getting ready to hand them the bill. That's when the neighbor showed up with the dish. Set it on the counter, said his piece, left. No fuss. Just something you do around here when you know folks are cold. And here's the part that stuck with me. Driving home, I was noticeably better with people. Called my daughter, which I don't do near enough. Waved at a fella I usually just nod at. I actually caught myself doing it. It was a real thing that happened inside me, and I couldn't explain it, not until I started reading about it later. The man who put a name on this is Jonathan Haidt, social psychologist up at NYU, studies the emotions tied to right and wrong. What he found is that this feeling has its own word, elevation. Elevation is what fires off in your body and your head when you witness somebody do a good thing, not when you do it, when you watch somebody else do it. Haidt found it shows up as a real physical sensation. Most people describe a warmth in the chest, sometimes goosebumps, and it does something to your behavior. People who feel it are measurably more likely to go help somebody in the hours right after. What gets me is that it isn't just, well, that was nice. It works more like a cold going around. Goodness spreads. Not because folks copy the exact thing they saw, but because watching it shifts something inside them enough that they turn around and act decent themselves. Haidt figures elevation is us reacting to what he calls the moral side of life. Most of our feelings evolve to track the physical world. Fear tracks danger. Disgust tracks something spoiled. Elevation tracks something in the world between people, the sight of somebody being genuinely good. We're built to notice it because a community that spots virtue and passes it around tends to hold together and last. The other thing he found is that this runs across every culture. Doesn't matter where you were raised or what you believe. People from all over describe the same warmth in the chest when they watch real kindness or real courage. That tells you it isn't something you're taught to like. It's wired in somewhere deep. I think about this a lot now that I've got a word for it because I see the setup for it constantly in this work. I walk into people's houses on some of the worst days they're having. Heat's out in January. AC died in July. Something they were counting on just quit. And what I see in those houses is sometimes remarkable. A husband who's clearly been talking his wife down off the cost all morning, calm as can be. A woman apologizing for the mess with 3 kids underfoot and a dead furnace. An old man who thanks me twice and means it both times for showing up on a Saturday. I watch that and I feel something. And now I know what the something is. The flip side is what I see when I do the job right. I'm not bragging. I mean, when I explain what I actually found instead of just blurting out a price. When I tell somebody their system's got another 5 good years and they don't need what they walked in thinking they needed. When I call back an hour later to make sure the fix held. I've had folks react to that in a way that's way bigger than what I did. They get a little emotional. They tell their neighbor. They message me a week later. I used to figure that was just good service paying me back. Now I think a chunk of it is elevation. They saw something they weren't braced for, a service call that felt like somebody actually gave a damn, and it turned their afternoon a little, maybe their whole week. That's not nothing. That travels. The research says elevation hits harder when you don't see it coming. Doing the bare minimum you owe somebody doesn't trigger it. What triggers it is a person doing more than they had to, when nobody made them, when they easily could have skated. That's when the chest warms up. That's when folks go home and are a little gentler. with their families. There's something humbling in that because it means what you do on a plain Tuesday, on a call you'd rather already be done with, on a day you're wore out, can ripple out in ways you'll never once get to see. The neighbor showed up with a casserole because that's just what you do out here. He changed my afternoon, and I probably changed somebody else's and never knew it. So here's what I figured out. Moral elevation is real. Haidt found it, measured it, named it. But honestly, anybody who spent time in a small town already knew it was there. They just didn't have the word for it. When somebody in Kingfisher does a genuinely decent thing, people notice. It gets talked about. It spreads. That's not sappy. That's the machinery running exactly the way it was built to run. The piece I take home is this. Virtue is catching, and it's catching in a direction you can actually point. If you act with more decency than the moment demands, people don't just appreciate it. Some of them carry it on. They go do something good for somebody you'll never meet, and that person does the same. The casserole dish ends up 3 houses down the road from where it started. You don't need a big stage to kick that off. You just need to mean it on a Tuesday. This has Figured Something Out. I'm Dave Hartzell. Thanks for riding along with me. Call 405-375-4822 or book at hartzellseaterre.com.